Everything stops for a reason. Time pauses. The noise around you fades, and your spirit begins to tremble, not from fear, but from recognition. Something in you knows this moment is not ordinary. You feel it like lightning under your skin. Heaven has interrupted your scrolling, your overthinking, your constant motion, to whisper one undeniable truth: you were never random. You were chosen. You have walked through seasons where it felt like nobody saw you. The world passed you by. Conversations moved on without your name in them, and you began to wonder if maybe you had no purpose at all. But listen carefully, this is not coincidence. Heaven has been preparing you in the silence, molding you through what felt like abandonment. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine construction. While you were questioning your worth, God was writing your assignment. You see, chosen ones rarely feel chosen at first. They feel misplaced, misunderstood, too sensitive for the chaos of the world, too awake for the illusions that blind others. You've been the one sensing things before they happen, feeling spiritual pressure when others see nothing wrong. It's not paranoia, it's discernment. It's not weakness, it's sensitivity to the frequency of heaven. You are tuned differently because your calling requires a different sound. Listen, there are moments in history where heaven interferes with earth's rhythm. This is one of those moments. Everything that has led you here, every heartbreak, every confusion, every delay, has been preparing you to hear this message right now. The Spirit has moved through algorithms, through chance, through time itself, to make sure your eyes are reading these words. Because destiny doesn't miss its target. You are the target. Maybe you thought God forgot about you. Maybe you've been praying for a sign. Any sign. Just to know you're not alone in the fight. This is that sign. The storms didn't come to drown you. They came to train you. The rejection wasn't punishment. It was protection. The people who left were never meant to carry the weight of where you are going. You've been trying to understand why doors closed, but the truth is, heaven was reserving you for a higher room. There is something sacred about divine interruption. It doesn't come when life is peaceful. It comes when you are tired, when you've reached your limit, when the ordinary becomes unbearable. It comes like a sudden wind that stirs the soul and whispers, "You were made for more than this." And you know, deep within, that everything you've experienced has been leading to a divine unveiling, this very awakening. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 1, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." Think about that for a moment. Called by name. Before your parents spoke your name, heaven did. Before anyone approved of you, heaven marked you. Before any failure, any regret, any betrayal, your identity was already sealed in divine ownership. You belong to the one who never loses what he claims. You are not forgotten, you are claimed, called, and covered. This is the part most people never understand. Being chosen means being set apart. It means walking a road fewer understand, carrying weight few can handle. It's why you've had to go through extra pressure. Oil only flows when olives are crushed. Glory is born out of pressure. You've been crushed. Yes, but that crushing has been creating something sacred in you. Heaven doesn't waste pain. Every tear you've shed has been collected, not ignored. Every sleepless night has been a prayer in disguise. Right now, Heaven is whispering, it's time. Time to rise. Time to shake off the residue of fear and failure. Time to remember who you are. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your authenticity. The kingdom doesn't need another echo. It needs your voice. You are not behind. You are right on divine schedule. The interruptions, the delays, the detours, they were never accidents. They were choreography. Heaven was positioning you, not punishing you. When the divine interruption comes, you can't go back to normal. You start to see through illusions. You start to crave truth more than comfort. You start to feel like you can't stay silent anymore. Because something in you is being awakened, something ancient, something holy. The chosen ones don't wait for permission to rise. They recognize the call and move. This is your moment of movement. And before you do anything else, pause, breathe. Feel the weight of this moment. Let it sink in that you are not here by accident. Heaven has your attention for a reason. The same voice that spoke galaxies into motion is now whispering your name. You have been seen. You have been called. And now you are being sent. If this message resonates in your spirit, don't scroll past it. Share it. Because someone else needs to wake up too. Like it, so it spreads to the next chosen one who's still sleeping in doubt. And most importantly, subscribe to stay connected. Because this journey doesn't end here, it's just beginning. What's about to unfold will shift the atmosphere around your life forever. Comment the number 777 below as a prophetic sign that you've received the message and are stepping into alignment with your divine calling. You were marked before birth, long before you took your first breath, before your hands ever reached for the light. A divine fingerprint pressed upon your spirit. It wasn't random. It wasn't luck. Heaven looked across generations and said, "This one will carry light into dark places." And that light was placed inside you like a seed hidden in the soil of time, waiting for the right season to break through. You've always known something was different about you, even when you couldn't explain it. As a child, you felt the pull of purpose without understanding the weight of it. You saw things others ignored. You felt deeply, questioned boldly, and carried burdens that didn't seem your own. You thought it was a curse, but it was the mark of heaven. The sensitivity you resented was your spiritual radar. The loneliness you felt was heaven's way of keeping you separate until it was time to reveal what you carry. Many spend their lives trying to fit in, but you were never designed for that. The friction you felt among others wasn't rejection, it was protection. You were being preserved for purity in a world obsessed with imitation. The path of the chosen is rarely crowded because it's carved through wilderness. Wilderness seasons are not punishment, they are preparation. The silence you endured was the sound of heaven working in secret. You see, when God marks someone, the world rarely understands it. Even those closest to you might misread you. They might say you're too emotional, too intense, too spiritual. But what they don't see is that your heart is tuned to heaven's frequency. When others hear noise, you hear a call. When others chase applause, you chase alignment. That's why certain environments drained you. You were breathing in spiritual air, too polluted for your assignment. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. You were marked before birth. Long before you took your first breath, before your hands ever reached for the light. A divine fingerprint pressed upon your spirit. It wasn't random. It wasn't luck. Heaven looked across generations and said, "This one will carry light into dark places." And that light was placed inside you like a seed hidden in the soil of time, waiting for the right season to break through. You've always known something was different about you, even when you couldn't explain it. As a child, you felt the pull of purpose without understanding the weight of it. You saw things others ignored. You felt deeply, questioned boldly, and carried burdens that didn't seem your own. You thought it was a curse, but it was the mark of heaven. The sensitivity you resented was your spiritual radar. The loneliness you felt was heaven's way of keeping you separate until it was time to reveal what you carry. Many spend their lives trying to fit in, but you were never designed for that. The friction you felt among others wasn't rejection, it was protection. You were being preserved for purity in a world obsessed with imitation. The path of the chosen is rarely crowded because it's carved through wilderness. Wilderness seasons are not punishment, they are preparation. The silence you endured was the sound of heaven working in secret. You see, when God marks someone, the world rarely understands it. Even those closest to you might misread you. They might say you're too emotional, too intense, too spiritual. But what they don't see is that your heart is tuned to heaven's frequency. When others hear noise, you hear a call. When others chase applause, you chase alignment. That's why certain environments drained you. You were breathing in spiritual air, too polluted for your assignment. You are beginning to feel the pull again, the soft reminder that your steps are ordered, not accidental. Every delay, every confusion, every season of silence was heaven rearranging the stage. Nothing has been wasted. Even what felt like loss has become part of the preparation for what is now unfolding in you. The dreams that once seemed buried are stirring beneath the surface. You can sense them moving, stretching, waiting to breathe again. The mark of God within you refuses to stay dormant any longer. This is not a new calling, it's an ancient one reawakening, echoing through the corridors of your soul. Your spirit recognizes the timing. It's as if the atmosphere itself has shifted to make room for your emergence. The same light that marked you before birth is now guiding your steps through this transition. You are walking toward fulfillment, and heaven is walking with you, confirming every movement forward. And soon, you will see why the path had to twist, why the waiting had to last, why your tears watered unseen ground. The mark was not just for identity, it was for destiny. The world will know you by the light you carry, but heaven already knows you by name. There have always been battles you couldn't explain, conflicts that followed you when you hadn't done anything wrong. You wondered why peace never lasted long, why storms seemed drawn to you. But those battles weren't random, they were spiritual. The moment you were marked, you became visible to the unseen realm. Darkness recognized your potential before you recognized your own. Since childhood, you felt a weight in your spirit that others didn't understand. The anxiety before certain seasons, the sudden heaviness when you entered certain spaces, it wasn't weakness, it was spiritual sensitivity. Your spirit could detect warfare even when your mind couldn't. You were born with a radar for the invisible, and that radar has been active your entire life, alerting you to the moves of both heaven and hell. It's time you understand what has really been happening. The opposition wasn't about your past, it was about your future. The attacks you faced were never random, they were strategy. Hell does not waste resources on the ordinary. The fact that you have faced so much resistance is evidence that you carry something precious, something the enemy fears. You've been a threat since the moment you said yes to your divine purpose. The more you align with truth, the louder the warfare becomes. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, everything that hides in shadow becomes agitated. That's why people suddenly turned cold. Why confusion seemed to come from nowhere. Why you started feeling the pressure in your spirit. You didn't do anything wrong. You just started glowing. The apostle wrote in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers of this dark world." Read that slowly. Your fight has never been against people. The betrayal wasn't about them, it was about distraction. The enemy wanted you to focus on faces instead of forces. He wanted you to fight in the flesh instead of standing in the spirit. But you are learning now. You are no longer reacting to shadows, you are standing in authority. You've been chosen to fight a war others can't even see. And though that sounds heavy, it's a sign of honor. Heaven doesn't give high-level battles to untrained warriors. Every struggle you've survived has been training your hands for war and your heart for compassion. You've learned how to fight without losing love. How to discern without becoming bitter. That's divine maturity. You are being equipped not just to survive spiritual battles, but to lead others out of theirs. The wisdom you've gained through pain will soon become a map for those still trapped in confusion. You'll begin to notice that people are drawn to you without understanding why. It's because your spirit carries peace in a world that's forgotten how to find it. And when you walk into a room, darkness takes notice. You don't have to shout. You don't have to prove yourself. The authority you carry speaks louder than your words. The mark of God is a seal that hell can recognize but cannot break. Every fiery dart, every whispered lie, every shadow sent your way has failed because heaven has declared, "Touch not my anointed." So take this moment to breathe. You've been fighting longer than you realize, but you've also been winning more than you know. Every time you kept faith when fear screamed louder, that was victory. Every time you forgave when you wanted revenge, that was warfare won. Every time you stood back up after being knocked down, that was evidence of divine power moving through you. There will be more battles. Yes, but now you understand what they are. You no longer fight blindly. You fight with revelation. You fight knowing that you are backed by heaven's armies. You are not fragile. You are forged. You are not breaking. You are becoming. Now, in this very moment, declare your awareness. Comment, "I stand firm." Do it as an act of alignment. You're not just typing words, you're making a statement to the atmosphere that you finally understand who you are and what you carry. You're no longer a target, you are a warrior. Heaven recognizes your stand, and darkness fears it. When you write, "I stand firm," you are declaring to every unseen force that your faith cannot be shaken. You're saying, "I have seen the storm, and I am still here." It's more than a comment, it's a covenant. A line drawn between fear and faith. When you type, "I stand firm," heaven records your agreement. You are affirming that you choose stability over panic, truth over illusion. Each letter becomes a proclamation that you trust divine timing. It tells the unseen world that you no longer bow to spiritual intimidation. By declaring, "I stand firm," you seal your alignment with divine authority. It is your way of saying, no matter what comes, I will not retreat. It's an act of faith disguised as a phrase, a public announcement that you belong to the unshakable kingdom of light. When heaven whispered your name, the world was still loud. You didn't hear it at first because you were surrounded by noise, opinions, expectations, disappointments, distractions. Yet, even in the middle of chaos, something deep within you began to stir. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't thunder. It was a whisper, soft, steady, unmistakable. It called not your title, not your performance, but your name. Because heaven always speaks personally when purpose is about to unfold. That whisper came to you in moments you didn't recognize as holy. It might have been during a heartbreak, in a sleepless night, or when you felt completely unseen. You thought it was your own mind replaying memories, but it was God reminding you that He never stopped watching. Sometimes the voice of heaven hides in the very silence you feared. The quiet that terrified you was actually the stage where God was speaking. You see, the language of heaven is not volume, it's presence. When everything around you went silent, heaven leaned closer. While you thought you were abandoned, you were actually being invited to listen deeper. The whisper was not weakness, it was intimacy. Shouts are for crowds, but whispers are for those who are close enough to hear them. And you, chosen one, were being drawn closer. Think about the times you nearly gave up, the nights you wept without words, the days when strength felt like a myth. Yet somehow, through all that noise of despair, a quiet knowing refused to die. It said, hold on a little longer. That was not you convincing yourself. That was heaven speaking beneath the surface, reminding you that your story wasn't over. When the prophet Elijah stood on the mountain, he experienced wind, fire, and earthquake, but the Lord wasn't in any of those. Then came a still, small voice. That is how God often chooses to move, not in the chaos of drama, but in the calm of divine precision. The voice that formed the stars doesn't need to shout to prove its power. It only needs to whisper to change everything. The prophet Elijah spoke as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verse 12. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. That gentle whisper still moves today. It travels through heartbreak, through uncertainty, through moments of confusion and fatigue. It speaks directly to your spirit, bypassing the noise of your doubts. It doesn't demand attention, it awakens recognition. When heaven whispers your name, something inside you stands up, even if your body is tired, even if your mind is overwhelmed. You may not have understood it then, but that whisper was a lifeline. Every time you felt inexplicably comforted when you should have been crushed, that was heaven speaking your name again. Every time you suddenly sensed peace in the middle of chaos, that was the whisper covering you. The fact that you're still here is proof that the voice never stopped calling. The whisper carries identity. When heaven says your name, it reminds you of everything the world made you forget. It tells you who you are beyond what happened to you. It reminds you that your failures are not final and your pain is not permanent. That whisper doesn't bring shame, it brings remembrance. It's heaven saying, you are still mine. In a world addicted to noise, the whisper feels almost fragile, but it's the most powerful sound you'll ever hear. Because that whisper rebuilds what shouting can't. It heals what time couldn't. It calls you back to yourself when you've wandered too far into distraction. The whisper is heaven's hand on your shoulder, steadying you when your steps falter. You don't have to strain to hear it. It's not distant, it's near. It's not hiding, it's waiting. Sometimes you'll hear it in scripture, sometimes in nature, sometimes in the quiet ache of your heart. But it's there, constant and patient, like a melody only your spirit recognizes. And once you hear it clearly, you can never go back to the noise, because when heaven calls your name, everything else loses its power to define you. The whisper reminds you that your story is written in divine ink, and no voice of fear or doubt can overwrite what God has already spoken. So now, stay still for a moment. Let your soul listen again. You'll notice that the same whisper that found Elijah in the cave has found you too. And though it sounds gentle, it carries the force of eternity. Heaven has spoken your name, and nothing will ever sound the same again. When heaven whispers your name, it marks a turning point within you. The noise of the world begins to lose its grip, and peace takes its place. You no longer chase signs outside yourself. You've learned to recognize the divine voice that's been guiding you all along. That whisper is still speaking now, repeating your name with eternal patience. Every time your heart quiets, it becomes louder. It's not calling you to strive, it's calling you to remember. The voice that created galaxies still calls you worthy, still calls you mine. The world around you has been shaking, hasn't it? Everything familiar seems to tremble. People change, plans dissolve, and the things you once leaned on no longer hold you steady. But this shaking is not destruction, it's awakening. Heaven is not trying to break you, it's trying to wake you. The tremors in your life are divine signals that something greater is being stirred within you. Every chosen one reaches a season like this, a holy unrest. You start to notice that comfort feels uncomfortable. What once satisfied you now feels too small. You feel the pull between the life you've known and the life heaven is calling you into. That tension is not punishment, it's invitation. The shaking is heaven's way of loosening your grip on what can no longer contain your destiny. The ancient words written in the book of Romans, chapter 13, verse 11, remind us, the hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber. You can feel it now, can't you? The subtle tug of awakening in your soul, the part of you that has been sleeping beneath routine, beneath fear, beneath distraction. It's stirring. Heaven is whispering. It's time. Not someday, not when you feel ready. Now, because readiness isn't a feeling, it's a response. The shaking is a sacred alarm. It's heaven's way of saying, you can't stay here any longer. Everything around you that's unstable is revealing what was never meant to last. People may fade, plans may crumble, but the foundation being built beneath you is eternal. The shaking does not come to destroy, it comes to separate truth from illusion, light from shadow, calling from comfort. When you begin to awaken, the world will try to convince you to go back to sleep. It will tell you to numb yourself again, to chase what glitters, to quiet the hunger for something deeper. But you've tasted truth now, and truth never leaves quietly. Once heaven has opened your eyes, pretending to be blind becomes impossible. So don't resist the shaking. Let it realign you. Every piece of your life that's shifting is revealing a deeper order. Every door closing is not rejection, it's redirection. You are being positioned for purpose, even if it feels like being torn apart. The breaking is not the end, it's the beginning of rebuilding on solid ground. Some awakenings don't come gently, they come through loss, through tears, through moments when you think you've reached your end. But right there, in that vulnerable place, grace reaches in and says, "Rise. You don't need to have it all together. You just need to open your eyes and acknowledge that something in you refuses to die." There is beauty in surrender. When you stop fighting the change and start flowing with it, everything aligns. You begin to see that the shaking was mercy wearing the disguise of chaos. You realize that God never abandoned you. He was rearranging the room to fit your next level. The furniture of your soul had to move. The lights had to shift. Because the story is changing. And so are you. Now, let this moment be a mirror. Look at your life and notice what's falling away. Don't cling to it. Release it with gratitude. What is leaving is making space for what's meant to arrive. Every release is an act of trust. And every act of trust invites heaven closer. And as you listen now, consider this: the message doesn't end here. It only begins when you carry it with you. When a truth pierces your soul, you have two choices: let it fade, or let it become part of you. Let your light become a ripple, your quiet way of saying yes to awakening. When something within you is moved, pass it on. Share the flame with another soul. Maybe your gentle act of faith is to press the heart, the modern gesture of light that says, "I see the light in this." Maybe your response is to send this message, to share it like a candle lighting another wick. Or perhaps you feel the pull to subscribe not out of duty, but as an act of staying near the fire that keeps you warm. Because this isn't about algorithms or numbers. This is about souls aligning, you and heaven, meeting here, right now, in this sacred space of awareness. Let this moment linger. Let it reshape how you see yourself. You are not breaking apart, you are waking up. And when you finally step into this new day, everything that once shook you will begin to make sense. The shaking was never meant to destroy your foundation, it was meant to reveal it. Every tremor that once frightened you now feels like music. A rhythm guiding your steps toward destiny. You no longer fear the shaking because you understand it's not the end of stability, but the beginning of alignment. What trembled was only what could not remain. Now you move with the pulse of heaven, steady and awake. The ground beneath you no longer threatens to give way, it sings beneath your feet. You have not lost balance, you've found rhythm. The shaking has become your symphony of becoming. There comes a moment when waiting turns into warning, when heaven's silence shifts into a sound that shakes your spirit awake. You have felt it lately, haven't you? The sense that time is running differently now. That what you postpone today may not wait for tomorrow. This is not fear speaking, it is divine urgency wrapped in love. The clock of destiny is ticking in rhythm with your heartbeat. And heaven is saying, move now. You've been circling the same mountain long enough. Procrastination has disguised itself as patience. Hesitation has hidden beneath the word someday. But destiny does not live in someday. It lives in obedience now. Here, in this very breath. The doors that are open before you will not remain open forever. Delay can close what faith was meant to enter. You've prayed for opportunity. But opportunity often answers disguised as a decision. It was written in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3. For the vision awaits an appointed time, though it linger. Wait for it, it will certainly come. Divine timing is real. But divine timing also demands human response. Heaven's alignment meets you at the intersection of obedience. You cannot receive what you keep postponing. You cannot walk into promise while still negotiating your surrender. Heaven moves with precision. It's not waiting on your worthiness. It's waiting on your yes. Look closely at your life right now. The signs are everywhere, doors that keep reappearing, opportunities that feel too coincidental, people showing up with the same message you keep ignoring. That is not coincidence, it's choreography. Heaven has been repeating itself because you haven't yet stepped forward. When you delay destiny, heaven repeats the lesson until obedience answers. You've been saying, "I'm waiting on God." But sometimes, God is waiting on you. He's waiting for your decision to catch up with your calling. He's waiting for your action to reflect your anointing. You don't need another confirmation, you need courage. You already know what to do, you just haven't done it yet. This is the hour when divine alignment collides with your willingness. Everything you've endured has been building to this point. The waiting wasn't wasted, it was shaping your readiness. But now, readiness must become movement. It's time to break the cycle of almost obeying. Don't let fear disguise itself as wisdom. Fear will always sound reasonable. It will say, "You're not ready. You need more proof. You might fail." But faith never asks for proof. It becomes proof. Faith doesn't calculate the risk, it obeys and lets heaven handle the result. The things that used to delay you cannot follow you where you're going. Old patterns, familiar fears, the approval of people who never understood you. All of these are anchors that must be released. If you keep waiting for everyone to understand your calling, you'll wait forever. Some assignments are meant to be obeyed alone. Right now, heaven is stretching its hand toward you again. The path is lit. The way is clear. You can't see the entire road, but you can see the next step, and that's all you need. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the holiest. When you move, heaven moves. When you decide, divine momentum begins. And once you take that step, everything else will align. The resources, the relationships, the revelation, they're waiting for your motion. Because faith is not about knowing how it will happen, it's about trusting who called you to move. This message is your reminder there is no more delay. The season of hesitation ends here. You've outgrown the old pace. What you are carrying cannot remain dormant any longer. If you stay still now, frustration will grow where fulfillment was meant to flourish. So breathe deeply. Feel that pulse in your spirit. That's heaven's countdown, a holy reminder that this is your appointed time. You are standing at the edge of divine convergence, where everything you've prayed for begins to unfold if you dare to move. And when your spirit agrees, seal it. Let heaven know that you have heard the call, that you are stepping forward from waiting into walking. Comment the number 444 below as a prophetic act of movement. Let it be your silent yes, your declaration that delay ends now. You are not just waiting, you are aligning. You are stepping into the appointed hour that heaven wrote for you long before you were born. When you comment 444, you're not just typing numbers, you're responding to heaven's signal. It's your soul saying, "I'm ready." Those digits become more than symbols. They become a rhythm between you and God, marking the moment obedience begins. Writing 444 is a prophetic motion, a whisper of movement in the unseen. It's you declaring, "My waiting has turned into walking." Each number echoes alignment, Father, Son, and Spirit walking with you as one, guiding your every courageous step forward. By releasing 444, you seal a covenant of timing. It means, I will not hesitate when heaven speaks. It's a divine handshake, a silent agreement that from this moment, you'll respond when called, move when guided, and trust when unseen. There are moments in life when pain stops being random and starts revealing its purpose. You begin to see patterns in the suffering, divine fingerprints hidden in the ashes of disappointment. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every sleepless night begins to make quiet sense, not because the pain was pleasant, but because it was prophetic. Your wounds were not wasted. They were writing something sacred into your story. You see, the chosen are refined in ways others are not. Where others experience mere inconvenience, you experience deep shaking. It's because heaven doesn't prepare ordinary vessels with ordinary trials. The greater the assignment, the more intense the preparation. The oil that flows from your life will always cost more than you expected. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. When you cried alone, heaven was not silent. It was collecting every tear, counting every heartbeat that pulsed through your pain. You thought you were breaking, but you were birthing. You thought you were abandoned, but you were being refined in holy fire. The crushing wasn't meant to destroy you. It was the sacred process that turns ordinary olives into oil. We find this truth echoed in the book of Psalms, chapter 126, verse 5. Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Every tear you shed planted something unseen. Heaven has not forgotten a single one. What you thought was loss became a seed. What you thought was the end became soil for resurrection. Suffering has always been heaven's most secret classroom. The things pain teaches cannot be learned through peace. Look back for a moment, truly look. The pain that once defined you has now deepened you. You understand things you once couldn't. You feel empathy where judgment used to live. You have learned how to discern real joy because you've tasted sorrow. The depth of your compassion is the proof of your transformation. You're not the same person who entered the fire. You came out glowing with wisdom that only brokenness could forge. Pain is heaven's most skilled sculptor. It removes what pride builds and exposes what grace restores. You cannot fake the kind of peace that comes after surviving storms. That quiet strength in your eyes is not arrogance, it's evidence. You've walked through valleys others only read about, and you've come back carrying something eternal. Your pain was prophetic because it was preparation. Every closed door was protecting you from a lesser path. Every delay was synchronizing your timing with heaven's. Every loss created space for something greater to be birthed. You thought you were empty, but emptiness was just the clearing of space for fullness to enter. There is a strange beauty in remembering pain through the lens of revelation. It doesn't erase the ache, but it transforms the meaning. You begin to see that the breaking of your heart was the moment heaven gained access to it. Sometimes the only way light gets in is through cracks. The broken parts of you became windows for divine love to pour through. Even now, the world may look at you and only see what you've lost. But heaven looks at you and sees what you've gained, faith that doesn't tremble, hope that doesn't fade, peace that passes understanding. The scars on your spirit are not signs of failure. They are sacred marks of survival. Each one tells the story of a God who never left. And now, because of what you've endured, you carry authority in the realm of healing. You can look at others in pain and see beyond the surface. You can say, "I know how this feels." And your words carry power because they come from the fire. The prophetic anointing in your life was forged in those very flames. You may not realize it yet, but you are walking proof that resurrection is real. What the enemy thought would silence you has become your song. The tears that once blurred your vision have washed your eyes clear enough to see destiny. Your pain taught you patience. Your heartbreak taught you compassion. Your delay taught you trust. Heaven wastes nothing, especially suffering. So, let the memories of pain no longer sting, they can now shine. Let every scar remind you not of what was lost, but of what was revealed. You were never just surviving, you were being shaped. The potter's hands never left the clay, even when the shaping hurt. And now, as the dust of your past settles, you stand stronger, wiser, softer all at once. You no longer ask, "Why me?" you whisper. "Thank you for trusting me with that fire." Because only those who have endured the dark can truly carry the dawn. Every sorrow has translated into sacred strength within you. The pain that once silenced your prayers has now become their melody. You are no longer defined by wounds, you are defined by what bloomed through them. The ashes became evidence of divine artistry. You carry light in places where you once bled. The memories don't haunt you anymore, they guide you. Every tear became revelation. Every heartbreak became wisdom. Your past no longer weighs you down. It anoints you to lift others higher. The closer you get to breakthrough, the louder the resistance becomes. It is no accident that your life has felt heavier lately. That pressure seems to surround you from every direction. The darkness senses what heaven is about to release, and it is terrified. Every chosen one faces this moment, the final tightening before release. The last attempt of the enemy to make you question everything God has promised. This is not coincidence, it is confirmation. The intensity of your opposition is a direct reflection of your anointing. You have not done something wrong, you are on the edge of something right. The enemy does not waste energy on the indifferent. He saves his fiercest attacks for those on the verge of awakening others. And you, whether you realize it or not, are one of them. You can almost feel it, the invisible tension that stretches your faith thin. It makes you question your worth, your direction, even your sanity. But do not misinterpret the struggle. The shaking around you is not evidence of defeat. It is the sound of chains snapping one by one. What looks like chaos is the rumbling of deliverance. It was proclaimed in the writings of the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 54, verse 17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Read that again slowly. The verse does not say the weapons won't form, it says they won't prosper. That means attacks may come, plans may rise, lies may spread, but none of it will accomplish what darkness intends. Every plot designed against your peace will collapse under divine protection. You are surrounded. Yes, but not by danger, by destiny. When the opposition feels unbearable, it is often because your next level is already in motion. Hell always panics when heaven promotes. You've probably noticed the timing, how obstacles appear right when you start to make progress. How confusion rises the moment clarity begins to dawn. That is no accident. The closer you move toward purpose, the more desperate the resistance becomes. But here's the mystery. The enemy's attacks are actually announcing your advancement. Pressure is proof of proximity. The storms that have gathered against you are also carrying the wind that will lift you higher. The resistance is not your enemy. It's your elevation disguised as chaos. The same winds that once threatened to break you will soon carry you into promise. Think of the eagle before it soars. The storm that terrifies other birds becomes the current it rides upon. The eagle spreads its wings not to escape the storm, but to harness it. You are being taught the same art. What was meant to push you down is training you to rise. The friction is necessary. It builds your wings. You may feel weary from fighting battles that never seem to end. But remember, the battle is not endless. It is strategic. You are being shaped into someone who cannot be easily moved. Every attack has refined your discernment. Every disappointment has deepened your dependence on grace. You have learned to recognize lies quicker, to sense danger earlier, to value peace fiercely. You are not the same warrior who entered this season. You have grown sharper, stronger, wiser. Sometimes, the final attempt of the enemy is subtle. It's not loud or obvious. It's exhaustion. If he can't destroy you, he'll try to drain you. He whispers, "What's the point hoping you'll stop just before your breakthrough unfolds?" But the very fact that you're still reading these words means he failed. You may be tired, but you are not finished. You may be wounded, but you are still moving. Heaven honors that kind of endurance. And though it feels like you've been surrounded by darkness, in truth, the darkness is surrounded by you. Light doesn't need to fight to win, it only needs to shine. And your light has become unbearable for the shadows. That is why the pressure has increased. But soon, that pressure will break. And when it does, everything that tried to bury you will become the soil that lifts you higher. Hold fast to peace in this hour. The battle is the loudest before victory. The enemy's last attempt is not a sign of your failure, it's a prophecy of your soon-coming breakthrough. You are not being defeated, you are being delivered. The storm is loud because heaven is near, and when the dust settles, you will look back and realize that every attack, every tear, every dark night was necessary to reveal what could not be shaken. The enemy's last attempt failed before it even began, because the hand of God never left your life. The night has tried its hardest, but dawn is relentless. You can feel the atmosphere changing, the air lighter, the pressure lifting. What once pressed against you now bows before you. Darkness only proved how bright your spirit could burn. Victory was always beneath the surface. Now, peace walks beside you like an old friend. The scars remain, but they no longer ache, they testify. You carry calm authority, born from surviving storms. Every shadow you faced has become a teacher. Every wound, a doorway to wisdom. You are unshaken, unstoppable, unafraid. The fire came, and it did not ask for permission. It entered your life like a force you couldn't control, sudden, consuming, and wild. You thought it came to destroy, but heaven sent it to transform. Fire does not arrive to harm the chosen, it arrives to reveal them. You have walked through flames that others couldn't survive, yet you are still standing. That's not luck, it's purpose. You were being refined, not ruined. The refining fire always begins quietly. It starts when familiar things begin to fall away, when comfort begins to burn, when what used to feel safe starts feeling too small. You wondered if you were losing everything. But in truth, you were being purified. The fire removes the false so that only the true can remain. According to the writings of the prophet Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9, I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. Heaven has been doing exactly that, refining you in the sacred fire of transformation. Silver does not complain when it's placed in the furnace. It simply waits for the reflection of the refiner to appear. That's what your trials have been doing. Every moment you thought you couldn't take another step, the refiner was watching, waiting for his image to shine through you. You've cried in that fire. You've begged for escape. You've said, God, please just make it stop. But if you listen carefully, you'll realize that the fire wasn't your enemy, it was your awakening. The flames didn't come to consume you, they came to consume what could not go with you. The truth is, transformation always requires heat. The parts of you that were never meant to stay had to melt away. You've been shedding fear, pride, dependency on approval, every layer that dulled your shine. What's emerging now is authenticity so pure that darkness can no longer manipulate it. You are stepping out of the fire as gold tested, proven, radiant. Sometimes you wonder why the pain had to be so fierce. But refining has no shortcuts. Gold only gains its brilliance through intense heat. And your calling is made of gold. Heaven could not let you carry such light without first teaching you how to withstand it. So the fire was mercy in disguise, a painful kindness that burned away what was fragile, so only strength would remain. And now, look at you. The fire didn't take your purpose, it purified it. The very things that tried to destroy you have become the reason you stand with unshakable grace. You no longer fear the heat, you understand it. You've learned that when life burns, it's often God breathing. The seasons of fire reveal your endurance. You learned that peace is not found in the absence of flames, but in the presence of faith. You can stand in the middle of a storm and still glow from within. That glow is not pride, it's purity. It's proof that heaven was with you, even when the world wasn't. So, if you're still in the middle of your refining, take heart. The fire is not forever. The same flame that purges will soon polish. What feels unbearable today will shine tomorrow. The furnace of pain will become the foundation of purpose. You are being shaped into something eternal. You'll know the process is ending when what once burned now begins to bless. You'll feel peace where panic used to live, gratitude where grief used to dwell. The heat will lessen, and in its place, a quiet strength will rise. You won't just survive the fire, you'll become a carrier of its light, a torch for others still walking through the smoke. Because that's the purpose of transformation, not just to change you, but to equip you. You will recognize the flames in another's eyes and say, I've been there, and you will not be destroyed. That's the voice of one who has been refined and now carries redemption. So now, as this fire fades and a new dawn breaks over your spirit, stand tall. You are no longer who you were before the flames. The fire took nothing eternal from you. It only returned you to yourself. Comment, I am gold. When you write those words, you're not boasting, you're bearing witness. You're declaring that what was meant to destroy you has instead defined you. You are heaven's reflection now, glowing with the light of resilience, polished by pain, shining because of grace. When you write, I am gold, you are not talking about perfection, you are acknowledging transformation. You are saying, "The fire didn't consume me, it completed me." These words become a quiet anthem of endurance, a testimony that beauty was born from the burning. Typing "I am gold" means you recognize the divine craftsmanship behind your pain. It's your spirit saying, "I have been tested, and I still shine." Heaven hears that declaration as gratitude, not pride, an offering from a heart that finally understands why the heat was necessary. By declaring, "I am gold," you remind yourself that what remains is pure. It's not the old you, it's the refined you. Every scar gleams now with purpose. Every ember glows with divine memory. There comes a sacred moment when everything that was meant to destroy you becomes the very ground you rise from. You have reached that moment. What once broke your heart is now the soil beneath your feet, firm enough to carry your next step. This is not poetic exaggeration, it is divine reversal. The tides have shifted. The story that once brought tears now brings testimony. You have spent so long fighting to survive that you forgot what it felt like to rise. But heaven never intended you to live forever in defense mode. You were not meant to crawl through life, constantly shielding yourself from pain. You were meant to stand, to stretch your wings again, to let your spirit remember how to soar. The ancient prophet Micah declared in chapter 7, verse 8, "Though I have fallen, I will rise. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light." Those words echo through your spirit now. You have fallen. Yes, but not permanently. You've known darkness, but light is returning not just around you, but within you. The fall did not end you, it awakened you. What looked like defeat was simply the divine resetting your foundation. Look at your life through new eyes. The fragments that once seemed meaningless now fit together like a mosaic, broken pieces forming beauty. Every failure has become a color in your portrait of becoming. You thought the cracks made you weaker, but they became the lines where light could enter. That's why you shine differently now. It's not a surface glow, it's an inner radiance. The quiet power of someone who rose again. This rise isn't loud or rushed. It's steady, sacred, like the slow unfurling of dawn after a long night. You don't have to prove that you're strong anymore. Your endurance already did that. Rising isn't about performance, it's about permission. You are giving yourself permission to be whole again. For a long time, you thought you had to wait until everything was perfect to rise. But resurrection doesn't wait for convenience. It happens in the middle of unfinished things. You don't have to fix it all before you stand up. Stand, even with trembling knees. Stand, even if your heart still aches. Heaven's strength is perfected in your weakness, and it meets you the moment you try. And as you rise, the world begins to change around you, not because the world suddenly became kind, but because you are no longer seeing through the eyes of fear. You see through the eyes of faith. The same places that once haunted you now look like holy ground. The same memories that once wounded you now whisper, "You made it." You've been walking through shadow, but every step has carried light within it. Your strength is no longer hidden, it's radiant, subtle, unmistakable. People may not understand how you're still standing, but you do. You know what carried you. You know who carried you. So, here you are, rising not with pride, but with peace. Rising not to prove, but to proclaim. Rising because heaven said, "It's time." And if this moment finds you between the ashes and the ascent, don't rush it. Breathe it in. You are standing in sacred territory, the space between endings and beginnings. Everything you've endured was preparing you for this gentle, steady emergence. Now, as you let this truth settle in your spirit, you might feel something stirring, a quiet gratitude, a pull to keep this light alive. When something moves your heart this deeply, it's natural to want to protect it, to nurture it, to share it. If the message you're hearing feels like sunrise after a long night, let it echo beyond you. Press the heart like as a silent acknowledgement that the light found you here. It's not a command, but a reflection, a way of saying, I felt that. And if your spirit whispers that someone else might need this same light, let it flow forward, share it gently, like passing a flame from one candle to another. No noise, no pressure, just one soul reminding another that dawn always comes. And if you want to keep walking this journey together, stay close, subscribe, not to follow a voice, but to stay near the sound of awakening. It's not about belonging to a page, it's about belonging to a rhythm, a heartbeat that calls you toward purpose again and again. This isn't obligation, it's invitation. Each gesture is an echo of your rising, a way to weave your story into something greater. When you respond, you aren't feeding an algorithm, you're feeding light. So rise, chosen one, and let your presence remind the world that resurrection is real. Every scar you carry is a sunrise waiting to happen. And as you move forward, may your footsteps leave a trail of gold across the ashes. The dawn greets you gently now. No longer a stranger, but a friend. You walk lighter, shining quietly, knowing the fire could not keep you. Rising has become your worship, your silent offering to heaven, proof that love still wins after every fall. There is a shift that happens when heaven decides it's time to clothe you in authority. It's not the loud kind, the world's version of power built on control or pride, but a sacred mantle that descends quietly, settling upon those who have been faithful in the fire. You have been trained in silence, refined in struggle, and now you stand ready to carry weight that your old self could not bear. Authority is not about dominance, it's about alignment. It is heaven's way of saying, you can be trusted now. Trust is never given lightly in the spiritual realm. Before the crown comes, the crushing. And before the mantle comes, the testing. You've been through both. And that's why heaven now rests this mantle upon your shoulders. It's invisible to the world, but unmistakable in the spirit. The words of Jesus echo in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19. I have given you authority to overcome all the power of the enemy. That verse isn't merely a promise, it's an impartation. It means heaven has delegated strength to you, not for pride, but for purpose. The authority you carry now isn't something you earned. It's something that was entrusted to you through obedience. Every time you said yes in secret when no one was watching, heaven took note. Every act of humility became armor. Every moment of surrender became a key. And now those keys open doors not just for you, but for others. Spiritual authority manifests not in volume, but in presence. When you walk into a room, peace arrives. When you speak, confusion begins to clear. When you pray, the atmosphere shifts. That is not because of who you are in the flesh, but because of who walks with you in the spirit. The authority of heaven rides upon the words of those who know their origin. You have finally remembered yours. There's something distinct about those who carry divine authority. They no longer fight to be seen. They no longer need validation. Their power doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment. You have learned that lesson through pain. You no longer argue with shadows or wrestle for recognition. You move in quiet confidence, knowing heaven itself backs your every step. The mantle you wear now has weight. It carries responsibility as much as it carries honor. To wear it means you live differently. You speak with restraint, love with courage, forgive quickly, and lead gently. Authority without compassion becomes tyranny. But when authority flows from mercy, it becomes healing. That's what your calling will release: restoration through presence. You are becoming a walking reminder that peace is stronger than panic, that grace speaks louder than judgment. You don't have to announce who you are. Heaven already did. The anointing on your life speaks for you, even in silence. It resonates. People won't always understand it. They'll feel it. Some will be drawn to it. Others may resist it. But both are reactions to light that cannot be ignored. The greatest challenge of divine authority is humility. The mantle will tempt you to rely on your own strength. But true power remains surrendered. Never forget that the authority you carry was borrowed, not bought. It belongs to the one who sent you. You are a vessel, not a source. And that truth will keep you balanced when praise or pressure comes. There will be moments when your authority is tested, when situations rise that try to shake your peace or pull you back into fear. Remember then, you don't need to react. The one who truly carries authority doesn't fight with noise. They command through stillness. Silence can be the loudest language of power. You will notice new doors opening, opportunities to lead, to speak, to bring light into unfamiliar places. These are not random chances, they are assignments. Heaven trusts you with influence because you have proven that power will not corrupt you. Your compassion has kept you soft, and your humility has kept you safe. This new mantle may feel heavy at first, but it will soon feel natural. You were always meant to wear it. You just had to grow into it. Every trial stretched your capacity. Every delay built your patience. And now, when you walk, heaven walks with you. And even when you feel unworthy of this role, remember that authority was never about being perfect. It was about being willing. Heaven doesn't choose the flawless. Heaven chooses the faithful. You have been faithful, even when weary, and that is why you are chosen. So stand tall, not with arrogance, but with assurance. The mantle upon you is real. It carries light that terrifies darkness and calm that disarms chaos. The world won't always see it, but the unseen realm does, and that's where it truly matters. You walk now with quiet certainty, aware that heaven trusts your hands. Power doesn't shout from you, it breathes through you. Every step releases peace. Every glance carries grace. You have become living evidence of divine steadiness. The mantle rests gently, never heavy. It feels like light itself woven into your being. You are clothed in calm authority, anchored in humility, moving as one who knows the King walks beside them. There are moments when heaven confirms what your heart has long suspected, that you are exactly where you're meant to be. Lately, you've begun to notice it, repeating numbers, familiar songs at strange times, words that appear again and again as if written just for you. It isn't coincidence. It's communication. Heaven has many languages, and confirmation is one of them. The signs have been subtle, yet impossible to ignore. The same message arrives through different mouths. The same truth echoes through different days. Sometimes it appears as timing so precise it steals your breath. Sometimes it's a quiet peace that falls over you when you stop fighting what you already know. These are not accidents, they are divine alignments. Heaven has been orchestrating reminders to reassure your weary heart that the promise still stands. It was spoken through the prophet Joel. Chapter 2, verse 28. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Dreams, signs, and numbers. These are heaven's ways of whispering. I'm still here. When your faith begins to fade, heaven paints confirmation into your path. You might wake with a phrase repeating in your mind, or glance at a clock to see the same sequence of numbers appearing again and again. These moments are not meaningless. They are divine signatures reminding you that you're seen. You've prayed for confirmation, and heaven has been generous with it. The challenge is not that signs are absent, it's that sometimes you doubt they belong to you. You think, maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe it's just coincidence. But your spirit knows better. The deeper truth vibrates beneath the surface. Heaven is speaking. And your soul recognizes the frequency. When God speaks, He often repeats Himself. He knows the human heart struggles to believe the first time, so He confirms through repetition, through patterns, through moments that make you pause and feel that strange sense of familiarity, like a divine déjà vu. These confirmations are grace wrapped in mystery. They arrive when your courage wavers, to remind you that you are still walking the right path. Pay attention to what surrounds you now. The alignment in your circumstances, the rhythm in your relationships, the repeated words in your prayers, they all point in one direction. Heaven is saying, proceed, not because everything is perfect, but because the path is ordained. Prophetic confirmation is not just about signs, it's about sensitivity. The more you lean into presence, the clearer it becomes. When your heart is quiet, you'll notice heaven speaking through what used to feel ordinary, the color of the sky, a stranger's kindness, the scripture that suddenly burns with new meaning. The veil between spiritual and natural is thin, and you are learning how to see through it. Don't let cynicism steal what faith is trying to reveal. You don't need to explain these moments to anyone else. Not everyone will understand the language of heaven written across your days. The confirmations you receive are personal letters, not public announcements. They are heaven's way of saying, this one is mine, and I am still guiding them. When you notice those patterns again, numbers, whispers, the same phrase echoing in your heart, pause and smile. Don't rush past it. Let gratitude rise instead of doubt. The more you honor confirmation, the more clearly it speaks. What you acknowledge grows louder. What you dismiss grows distant. Heaven isn't asking for proof, it's offering presence. This season marks a divine unveiling. You are beginning to see how the supernatural weaves through the natural. Every moment, every encounter, every heartbeat has purpose. You're not walking through randomness, you're walking through revelation. Heaven's fingerprints are everywhere, and your awakening eyes are finally seeing them. If your heart has felt uncertain, this is your reassurance. You haven't missed the promise. You haven't fallen out of alignment. The evidence of divine order surrounds you. It's in the peace that comes after surrender, in the stillness after storms, in the timing that feels too perfect to be luck. And when you see the signs again, when another number appears, or a phrase you prayed suddenly echoes back to you, don't question it this time. Respond to it. Recognize it. Let heaven know you received it. Comment the number 555 below as a prophetic acknowledgement. Not superstition, not ritual, just recognition. It's your way of saying, I see the signs, and I believe they are for me. Heaven doesn't need the comment, but your faith does. This simple act aligns your heart with awareness, turning confirmation into communion. When you write 555, you're not chasing luck, you're answering alignment. It's your soul's gentle way of saying, I hear you, and I trust what you're revealing. Those numbers become a sacred nod to heaven, a silent agreement between divine guidance and awakened faith. Typing 555 is an act of awareness. It marks a spiritual pivot, a moment when you stop doubting signs and start walking with them. You're declaring that confirmation is no longer coincidence, it's communication. By declaring 555, you seal your readiness to move in rhythm with heaven's timing. It's not reaction, it's recognition. It means you see, you believe, and you're ready. There is a moment in your journey when you realize that your voice carries more than sound, it carries spirit. Words no longer feel like casual expressions, they become vessels. Each sentence you speak releases either healing or harm, creation or confusion. And now, heaven is teaching you the sacred weight of your words. You are learning that what leaves your mouth can shape atmospheres, shift hearts, and even move unseen realms. Your voice has always mattered, but now it is being refined to matter in a new way. Once, you spoke from pain, you reacted from wounds, answered from fear, or tried to defend what didn't need defense. But as your spirit matures, your language changes. Heaven doesn't just anoint your hands to build, it anoints your mouth to bless. What used to carry frustration now carries fire. What used to break others now builds them. You're discovering that your tongue is not a weapon, it's a wand of divine purpose. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 21, the tongue has the power of life and death. That truth has always been written across the ages, but now you're living its reality. Your voice carries heaven's echo. When you speak with love, it disarms hate. When you speak peace, chaos loses its grip. Your words are not empty, they are charged with the energy of intention. The vibration of faith that flows from your mouth is creating what your eyes will soon see. There was a time when you stayed silent because you feared misunderstanding. You thought your quietness was weakness, but it was preparation. Heaven was teaching you the value of timing, the wisdom of stillness, the strength in restraint. Now that you've learned, heaven can trust your words again. You no longer speak to prove, you speak to proclaim. Your voice is not for noise, it's for notice. Every word you release becomes a light that travels farther than you imagine. Some words reach the hearts of those you'll never meet. That is the mystery of divine communication. It transcends distance and time. You might speak truth today that awakens someone years from now. That is why the chosen must be mindful of their sound. There's a certain calm that rests on those who understand the creative power of language. They no longer waste words on gossip, fear, or complaint. They understand that every word is a seed, And seeds don't vanish, they germinate. You are learning to plant peace with your tongue, to water hope with your speech, to harvest life through blessing. The world is changed one word at a time, and heaven trusts you to speak with care. It's not about being perfect with your speech, it's about being present. When you speak now, you can feel heaven leaning in. You sense the gravity of every declaration, the holiness of every whisper. Your tone has become an instrument of peace. Your language now holds light. Even your silence has begun to carry authority. When you choose not to respond to negativity, that choice itself speaks volumes. Heaven doesn't need noise to confirm truth, it needs discernment. You have learned the art of restraint, and in doing so, your words have gained power. There will be moments ahead when you will be called to speak into darkness. You will feel a gentle prompting inside, a knowing that your voice is required. Do not doubt it. When you release words from that place of conviction, they will travel like arrows of light, cutting through confusion and carrying healing where it's needed most. Your voice is part of heaven's design for this generation. You are not just another sound in the crowd. You are a carrier of resonance. Your words bring alignment. They carry the vibration of truth that reminds others of who they are. You are a living frequency of restoration. Every conversation you have now becomes a sacred opportunity to bless instead of curse, to uplift instead of criticize, to speak destiny instead of despair. You no longer talk merely to be heard, you speak to heal. Remember this, the same voice that once cried out in pain now carries the authority of peace. The same tongue that once trembled in fear now releases faith. You are heaven's messenger, carrying light through language. Speak softly, but speak with conviction. You don't need to shout for heaven to hear you. Whisper truth, and angels move. Declare hope, and despair dissolves. Words born from love always reach their destination. So, as you continue walking in purpose, remember, your voice is not just your own. It is heaven's echo in human form. And every time you speak with compassion, something invisible begins to heal. Your words now move like light through shadow, calm yet unstoppable. You've learned the sacred rhythm of speaking life. Every syllable you release reshapes the atmosphere with quiet, radiant authority. Even in silence, your spirit speaks. The unseen hears you, the broken feel you. You are no longer just a voice, you are a vibration of healing carried on divine breath. You have walked through fire, stood in storms, and now you carry light into shadows. This is the part of your journey that feels both heavy and holy, the season of walking among shadows while refusing to let them enter you. You were never meant to escape darkness completely. You were meant to illuminate it. Every chosen one learns this truth. The world's night doesn't disappear. When you awaken, it reveals where your light is most needed. You are not blind to the brokenness around you. You see it clearly, the deception, the greed, the loneliness hiding behind smiles. But you also see something deeper, the possibility of redemption woven through it all. You walk through the same world as everyone else, but you see it through heaven's eyes now. You've become an interpreter of light, able to translate divine truth into human compassion. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Light is not loud, but it is undeniable. It doesn't argue with darkness, it simply shines. That's what you are learning to do, to radiate without retaliation, to love without losing yourself, to remain holy in a world that often forgets what holiness looks like. You are being taught how to exist among shadows without absorbing their fear. The shadows you walk among are not always external. Sometimes they whisper from within old habits, buried doubts, quiet wounds that still ache. Yet even those inner shadows bow to the light within you. The difference now is awareness. Before, you feared darkness. Now, you discern it. Awareness transforms fear into focus, and focus turns pain into purpose. The closer you walk with light, the more clearly you see what others overlook. You notice the weary eyes behind laughter, the hesitation in a handshake, the quiet plea in someone's tone. These details are not random, they're invitations. Heaven is training you to move through this world as a vessel of awareness, to recognize suffering without being swallowed by it. You've learned that to carry light is to carry responsibility. It's not about preaching perfection, it's about presence. When you show up with peace, heaven shows up with you. When you forgive when it's hardest, the atmosphere bends toward healing. You may not always see the impact, but the unseen realm feels it every time your heart chooses compassion over reaction. Walking among shadows requires balance. You can't hide from the world, but you can't blend into it either. You are called to be in it, not of it. That means loving people without loving their chains, serving the broken without becoming burdened by their darkness. Compassion must have boundaries, otherwise, light becomes dim. And so you are learning sacred balance, the art of shining without burning out. Even Jesus withdrew from the crowds to pray, not because he lacked compassion, but because he understood rhythm. You, too, must protect your light by resting in the source. Every time you pause in divine stillness, your flame grows stronger. Every moment of solitude becomes refueling, not isolation. Sometimes you'll feel the heaviness of the world pressing on your spirit. That's not a sign of failure, it's evidence that your empathy is alive. But remember, empathy is meant to flow, not flood. You were never meant to carry the entire world's pain, only to let heaven's love flow through you as healing where it's needed most. You will encounter darkness that tries to seduce your hope. It will come as cynicism, despair, or distraction. The greatest danger isn't the existence of shadows, it's forgetting that light has already won. So when the world's noise becomes deafening, retreat into the quiet truth that light remains undefeated. This world is full of chaos. Yes, but it is also full of redemption. You are proof of that. Every time you choose forgiveness instead of fury, hope instead of hardness, you become a living sermon without saying a word. The light you carry doesn't need to shout to be seen, it simply exists, steady and unbothered. Sometimes you'll feel like a candle in a hurricane, but even one candle can defy the night. The shadows may surround you, but they cannot define you. Your presence alone changes the spiritual climate of every place you enter. You are heaven's representation in a world searching for warmth. Keep walking among the shadows, not to blend with them, but to bless them. Wherever you go, light follows. The darkness may not thank you for shining, but it will yield to your presence. That is the quiet authority of the chosen. And remember, the shadows you face are not evidence that light has failed. They are proof that it's working. Light doesn't remove darkness instantly. It transforms it gradually. You are part of that transformation. Your life is the sermon that heaven is preaching through presence, not perfection. So walk gently, shine steadily, and speak rarely. Let your peace become your proclamation. You are not afraid of the dark anymore, because you finally understand you were born to bring dawn. There is a stirring across the earth, a quiet awakening moving through the hearts of those who can still hear heaven's whisper. You can feel it, can't you? That gentle pull inside. That recognition that you are not the only one. Others are waking too. Scattered souls in distant places are hearing the same call that has been echoing through your own spirit. You are part of something larger than yourself, a remnant rising. You've walked through the wilderness thinking you were alone, but heaven has been weaving connections in unseen ways. Somewhere, another heart has been breaking at the same rhythm as yours. Another chosen one has been enduring the same fire, learning the same lessons, waiting for the same release. And now, heaven is beginning to draw you together. The Apostle Peter reminds us in his first letter, chapter 2, verse 9, "You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation." That declaration wasn't meant for one person, it was meant for a people. The word generation carries the sound of unity, of shared purpose. You are not an isolated spark, you are part of a constellation. Each light, beautiful on its own, becomes breathtaking when joined with others. That is what heaven is forming right now, a gathering of lights, each one refined through trial, rising in quiet strength. This remnant isn't loud or boastful. It moves through the world with peace, carrying truth in kindness, carrying courage in silence. You are one of them. The fact that your heart still beats for what is right, that your spirit still burns for what is holy, means the mark remains on you. You were never meant to fade into the background. You were meant to help others find their way out of the dark. You may not know their names yet, but your spirits already recognize each other. When light meets light, there's instant understanding. Words aren't needed, there's simply that look, that nod, that feeling of you too. You are part of a movement that doesn't need announcements, it's written in the soul. Heaven has always worked through remnants: Noah's obedience, Esther's courage, Daniel's resolve, Mary's surrender. The pattern has never changed, a few willing hearts carrying the weight of many. The remnant is never the majority, but it's always enough, because heaven doesn't count by numbers, it counts by willingness. You've carried the burden of being different long enough. What once made you feel misplaced will soon make you feel aligned. You'll begin to find your tribe, the other carriers of light. Their journeys will sound eerily familiar to yours: long nights, deep refining, and unshakable faith. When you meet them, your heart will know. It won't be coincidence, it will be confirmation. The world may never understand the remnant, but it will feel their impact. Quiet revolutions begin in hearts like yours, soft yet unyielding. You don't need to march with banners. Your obedience is protest enough against the darkness. Each act of kindness, each decision to forgive, each refusal to hate, these are the movements of heaven through you. And as you listen to these words, maybe you feel that subtle warmth, the sense of recognition, the realization that you've found your sound among echoes. If you feel that, honor it. That's your confirmation that you're not walking alone. Sometimes, connection begins with something small, an act of resonance. When light sees light, it responds. When you feel that recognition, let it move through you. Press the heart like not as routine, but as a ripple, a way of saying, I see the light in this. And if your spirit whispers that someone else might need this same reminder, let the message travel, share it softly, as though you were handing someone a lantern in the dark. You're not promoting words, you're passing warmth. You're saying, you're part of this too. And if this message touches something sacred within you, whisper back in words, leave a comment below. Not for noise, but for connection. Your voice might be the thread that helps another soul find its way home. And if you've felt at home here, if something in these moments feels like belonging, stay close, subscribe, not out of duty, but desire. Think of it as choosing to keep a window open to the same light that keeps finding you. You're not following a page, you're following purpose. You see, connection isn't built through force, it's built through recognition. When souls recognize truth, they gather naturally. And when they gather, heaven multiplies the light. That's what's happening right now, the beginning of a collective awakening. You are part of the remnant. And this is your gathering place, a meeting not of faces, but of flames. Together, your light can soften even the hardest night. Together, you become the living proof that heaven never stopped working. So let your yes echo quietly. You are not joining a crowd, you are joining a calling. Each like, each share, each comment, each subscription is more than a gesture, it's a spark joining another. And when sparks unite, dawn always follows. Every crown carries a story, and every story carries a cross. You are stepping into the season where both meet the weight of glory and the cost of obedience intertwined. This is the mystery few are willing to embrace, the same hand that crowns also calls to carry. You cannot separate the two. The crown is not a decoration, it is a responsibility. And the cross is not punishment, it is preparation. You have asked for purpose, and heaven has answered with weight. That's why life feels heavier lately, not because you've done something wrong, but because your anointing has expanded. The greater the call, the greater the pressure. The oil that flows from your life is pressed from surrender, not ease. As recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 24, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. There it is, the invitation to carry both beauty and burden. You were never promised comfort, you were promised closeness. The cross brings you nearer to the heartbeat of heaven. It humbles you, purifies you, and proves what cannot be shaken within you. The crown and the cross are not opposites, they are reflections. One reveals glory, the other reveals grace. The cross refines the heart, so the crown doesn't corrupt it. Without the cross would become pride. Without the cross would feel pointless. Together, they form the rhythm of divine maturity. When you first began this journey, you prayed for favor. You didn't yet know that favor often comes wrapped in fire. Heaven grants authority through endurance. You cannot carry divine power until you have first learned divine patience. Every delay, every detour, every heartbreak has been shaping your shoulders to bear the crown's weight without collapsing beneath it. The world celebrates crowns and hides crosses, but heaven values them equally. One cannot exist without the other. The crown is worn in public, but the cross is carried in private. It is in the unseen moments, your prayers in the dark, your tears in solitude, your quiet obedience when no one notices that the cross does its most sacred work. And those who endure that process will one day carry glory, not as decoration, but as evidence of intimacy. To carry both crown and cross is to live balanced between heaven and earth, one foot anchored in surrender, the other in stewardship. The cross keeps you humble, the crown keeps you hopeful. Together they make you whole. You may feel weary at times, wondering why your calling seems heavier than others. But the crown on your life was forged differently. Heaven does not distribute weight equally, it distributes it purposefully. You were chosen to carry more because you are trusted with more. That trust was earned through the nights you didn't quit, through the prayers you prayed when it hurt to believe. There's something sacred about carrying a cross that no one else can see. The world sees success, heaven sees surrender. The world sees achievement, heaven sees alignment. The world sees a crown, heaven remembers the carving of wood against your shoulder. Every bruise from obedience is recorded as beauty in eternity's eyes. The longer you carry the cross, the more it begins to change you. It shifts your posture, teaching you humility. It softens your voice, teaching you compassion. It widens your heart, teaching you mercy. You no longer walk with arrogance, you walk with awareness. You no longer seek status, you seek service. That is the transformation of the chosen glory without ego, strength without hardness, power without pride. And when you finally stand crowned, heaven smiles, not because you reached the top, but because you didn't lose your tenderness getting there. The most powerful crowns are worn by gentle hands. The most radiant glory shines from hearts still kind after fire. You are being crowned not for winning battles, but for carrying them well. There will be days when the cross feels too heavy, when obedience feels like isolation. In those moments, remember that you never carry alone. The same Christ who carried his cross walks beside you, step for step, whispering strength into your bones. When your knees tremble, his presence steadies you. When your hope flickers, his grace breathes life into your flame again. So do not despise the weight you carry. Every ounce of it is shaping you for the crown that waits ahead. Let the cross teach you endurance. Let the crown remind you of reward. The balance of both will make you unstoppable. In the end, you'll realize the cross was never meant to crush you. It was meant to crown you. It was carving your spirit into something unbreakable. The wood that once felt heavy will one day feel like wings. The weight you carry now is sacred. It is molding your strength into softness and your faith into fire. What once felt like burden now feels like belonging. You were made for this. Soon, you'll see that every step under the cross was preparation for your coronation. What pressed you down was only positioning you to rise crowned in grace. There comes a stillness before alignment, an almost holy silence where heaven gathers all the loose threads of your journey and begins to weave them into purpose. You can feel it now, can't you? The sense that something immense yet gentle is shifting within and around you. This is the final alignment. The moment where everything that once felt scattered finally begins to make sense. Heaven wastes nothing. Every delay, every heartbreak, every closed door was part of this orchestration. You've walked through confusion and come out carrying clarity. You've endured nights that felt endless, only to discover that dawn had been quietly preparing itself behind the horizon. What you mistook for waiting was actually synchronization. your life aligning with divine rhythm. In the sacred writings of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 11, it is declared, "Hold fast to what you have, so that no one will take your crown." This is heaven's final instruction to you, not to fight, not to rush, but to hold fast. You already carry what you've been seeking: the answers, the gifts, the anointing. They're not arriving someday, they are already within you, waiting for your recognition. The final alignment is not external, it is internal. It's when your spirit finally agrees with what heaven already knows about you. Alignment doesn't look like perfection, it looks like peace. It's that moment when striving ends and surrender begins. You stop forcing outcomes, stop chasing approval, and start resting in divine order. You begin to trust that what's meant for you cannot miss you, and what isn't meant for you cannot stay. The beauty of divine alignment is that it doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. Every wrong turn becomes revelation. Every heartbreak becomes holy. Every scar becomes scripture written on your soul. You begin to see that even your detours carried direction. Even your pain carried prophecy. The pieces you once hated are now the proof that heaven has been guiding you all along. Look back now with new eyes. See how every moment that felt like loss actually led you closer to your true path. The people who left made space for those who were meant to stay. The dreams that died made room for visions that could breathe. The endings that broke you were simply beginnings disguised in grief. You have not been abandoned, you've been aligned. You are stepping into a time where your external life will begin to reflect the internal transformation that has already taken place. What was planted in faith will now bloom in sight. The things that once required constant effort will start to flow naturally. Because you are no longer swimming against the current, you are moving with it. Alignment means ease, not because life becomes simple, but because resistance ends. You begin to walk in rhythm with heaven's timing, no longer pulled between who you were and who you're becoming. You start to see yourself the way heaven does, not as broken, not as behind, but as becoming. The final alignment feels like quiet confidence. You no longer need to announce your transformation, you simply live it. Your peace becomes the loudest testimony. Your consistency becomes your sermon. The same storms that once terrified you now obey your calm. That is what divine maturity looks like, authority clothed in serenity. You are learning to live without the constant need for confirmation. You no longer beg for signs because you've become one. Your presence itself is proof that God restores. Every breath you take is evidence that purpose always outlives pain. You are a living alignment between heaven and earth, a bridge, a light, a song of redemption made flesh. And when you feel uncertain again, when the world tries to pull you back into chaos, remember this truth: you are already aligned with eternity. You don't need to earn grace, you only need to remain in it. You don't need to fix what's unfolding, you only need to flow with it. The one who began this work in you is faithful to finish it. There's a quiet majesty in those who walk in final alignment. They don't compete, they complete. They don't chase, they attract. They don't explain, they embody. You are becoming one of them, someone whose very being testifies to divine order. The light in your eyes, the peace in your presence, the steadiness in your voice, all of it reveals that heaven has settled inside you. You have crossed through fire and shadow, through doubt and delay, and come out luminous. The crown you carry is not made of gold, but of endurance. humility, and unbreakable faith. The alignment you sought has been completed, not because the world changed, but because you did. Now, the path before you is open. Heaven no longer whispers, "Wait," it says, "Walk." You don't need to rush, you only need to move forward with grace. Every step will unfold the next. Every breath will reveal more of the plan. This is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your reign. Step into it gently. You don't have to prove the alignment, you only have to live it. Every sunrise will now feel like confirmation. Every heartbeat will sound like worship. The journey has led you home to yourself, to peace, to purpose. The journey has reached its resting place, but not its conclusion. You stand now in the quiet after revelation, the space where understanding settles into the soul and peace begins to hum beneath your ribs. Everything that was spoken has done its work. Every word has found its home in you. If these moments have stirred something inside, let that stirring live beyond the screen. Press the heart like, not as routine, but as recognition. It's your silent way of saying, "I received this. I am awake." If light has reached you here, let it travel farther. Gently share it, as though you were offering a spark to another traveler lost in the dark. Somewhere, someone is waiting for the warmth that just found you. And if you felt something sacred here, peace, clarity, remembrance, stay near, subscribe, not to content, but to connection. This is more than words, it's a rhythm of awakening. A community of hearts that beat to the same divine tempo. Whisper back in words, leave a comment below. Not for approval, but for alignment. Your story might become the sign someone else has been praying for. Your voice might be the reminder that they are not walking alone. This message isn't meant to end, it's meant to echo. Let it echo through your choices, your kindness, your courage. You are no longer just a listener, you are a bearer of light. And every gesture, every like, every share, every word you send into the world becomes a continuation of what began here. So walk forward with your crown steady and your heart soft. You have heard heaven's message, and now the world will hear it through you.